In order to get acquainted with this great Central Asian river, the Outdoor KZ team chose a simple yet effective vehicle, the framed inflatable kayak. Our cinematographers will kayak along the Sirdarya to learn about the animal and plant worlds of its floodplain, including with bukkara deer and other species. The nature of Kazakhstan is rich and diverse. For centuries, its mountains, steppes, deserts and woods have been the best friends of those who loved and appreciated their native land. They gave people food, roof and shelter. As time goes by, the tenor of our life is changing, but the nature continues to generously share its wealth with us. These days, Kazakhstan's landscapes and biological diversity attract numerous tourists and fans of active leisure. Together with the Outdoor KZ permanent TV expedition, you will visit most beautiful corners of Kazakhstan and learn how expert travelers survive in the wild. Being the longest river of Central Asia, the Sirdarya stretches for 2,200 kilometers from the Tian Shan Mountains down to the Aral Sea. It is considered to originate in the Fergana Valley at the confluence of the Naryn and the Kara Darya, with the former being its largest tributary issuing in Kyrgyzstan. On the territory of Uzbekistan, the Sirdarya crosses the Farkand Mountains and the Hungary Steppe and reaches Kazakhstan, already a deep inundated river. From the slopes of the Tian Shan, it brings its white waters to foothill valleys, where the accumulating silt forms fertile soils along the river banks. In its midstream, that is, on the territory of South Kazakhstan region, the river forms an extensive floodplain 10 to 50 kilometers wide and almost 400 kilometers long. Dense riparian thickets serve shelter to different types of animals which had found their ecological niche in the lush and motley world of Tugay jungle. The name of Tugay ecosystems comes from the Turkic word of Torgay, or forest. This type of inundated terrace woods can be found only in Central Asia. Before its influx into the smaller Aral Sea, the Sirdarya flows along the east outskirts of the Kızılkum sands. In different sources, the Sirdarya was called differently. The ancient Greek historian Arrian wrote that the land of the Sacs and Sogdians was divided by the Yaksat river, whereas his colleague Strabo referred to it as Iaksat. The father of history, Herodotus, describing the epic battle between the army of the Persian king Cyrus II with the cavalry of the Massagetwan Tamiris, claimed that the great conqueror found his death on the bank of Yaksat. Exactly there, the ruthless Tamiris put his head into the wineskin with blood, revenging the death of her husband and son. "You wanted blood, so get drunk to satiety," exclaimed the queen of Massagetæ. 2 centuries later, Alexander the Great built the city of Trans-Yaksat Antioch on the bank of the Sirdarya. He planned to use it as a base for an offensive against the Saka tribes, but after several bloody battles, refused the idea of subduing the nomadic people. In the Middle Ages, the Sirdarya banks turned into the fighting arena for influence over the whole Central Asian region. Military operations would start and cease, but the Kazakh people managed to defend their statehood in these fierce battles. Water has always been of huge value in arid climates. In ancient times, people very often fought for it, and nowadays its rational management is regulated by international environmental legislation. After Kazakhstan gained its independence, a considerable part of the Sirdarya floodplain received the status of especially protected territories. The Sirdarya Turkestan State Regional Nature Park was established in 2012 and includes parts of Karatau and Borodai-Tau ridges and the land along the coast of the Sirdarya and the Aris rivers. Our expedition decided to begin its journey along the river by visiting the Sirdarya branch of the national park.
Мы думали, гадали и так, как нам лучше организовать экспедицию, чтобы побольше узнать о реке.
We thought for a long time how to better organize the expedition to learn more about the river, and came to the conclusion that kayak was our best option. Firstly, it is high water season and it is really hard to get to the shore on an SUV. Secondly, the speed of the car doesn't allow, figuratively speaking, to properly observe the river and enjoy the view. On a kayak, you can actually feel the river's breath. Each traveler is entitled to a portion of good luck. Driving up closer to the Sirdarya, the river awarded us with a magnificent show. A fish hawk flew over our vehicle with a sizable fish in its claws. As if awaiting a photo shoot, it sat down on a power pole not far from us, and we managed to make a couple of great pictures. The fish turned out to be the snakehead. Today we saw with our own eyes a fish hawk fishing. We were lucky enough to film this process and even made several good photos. In the spring you can see a lot of fish hawks on the coast of the Sirdarya as they feed on local fish. Having left the village of Shaulder, the administrative center of Otira district, we continued our journey along the Sirdarya coast. Usually the highways in southern Kazakhstan are quite suitable for auto travel. Within the framework of the large-scale roadmap program implemented in the area, more than 600 kilometers of roads had been repaired and 6 bridges had been built. This year, though, turned out extremely abounding in water, and the forces of nature created some temporary difficulties. The river, full with spring water, even flooded the road in some places. Emergency road maintenance units were building temporary dams, whereas we had to go round along the Aris-Shadara highway. The river Aris originates in the Talas Alatau, flows for 35 kilometers across the territory of South Kazakhstan and Jambul regions, and falls into the Sirdarya near the settlement of Shaulder. To get to the Aris branch of the Sirdarya Turkestan National Park, we needed to get to the river's left bank. We are approaching the Sirdarya. It is the time of high spring water, and it is not simple to drive directly up to the coast. We will cross the river using the bridge. Near the Bayer-Kum bridge across the Sirdarya on the Aris-Shadara highway, the expedition met up the Sirdarya branch inspection task force of the national park. Our territory is about 59 hectares. We are responsible for protecting the local flora and fauna. We are now on the Sirdarya riverbank. Farther out, you can see the Bayer-Kum bridge. On the other side, the limits of our land reach the Shadara. Our branch is called Sirdarya and includes 4 forestries: Bayer-Kum, Ota, Takakol and Shadara. Our task is to monitor and survey the birds and animals living in the area. Pheasants take a special place. We monitor their quantity and population development. We also have boars. Generally speaking, about 82 animal and avian species live in our park. Our work is to protect and maintain the ecosystems for future generations. In 2013, we gained the status of a specially protected area, which added one more task: to create suitable conditions for tourism. Here, as you see, we have resting areas. We seek to create comfortable conditions for all our guests. With the arrival of spring, we installed 12 temporary dwellings with ACs and heating systems. People will start coming soon. Every year, we can host up to 5,000 tourists. On the Sirdarya coast, the national park's fishing camp called the Fishing Owl or the Fisherman Village. The day permit costs a little over 500 tenge and allows to take away up to 5 kilograms of fish. Such a burden does not undermine the fish counts, but provides additional resources to clean and maintain the coastline. Vasily Yakovlevich Kima, one of the expert inspectors of the national park, became our Tugay jungle guide for the day. He knows every path in this forest and checks boar and pheasant feeders every day. We came here yesterday to bring some feed. Do you see the traces of a female pig and its piglets? They surely came here. They do it every day. Do you think we could photograph them? Don't think so. They are night animals and come here only when it gets dark, 2 or maybe 3 a.m. On occasion you can see them running around in daylight. The feed for boars has to be buried deep down in soil for other animals not to get to it. Even if it is 2 meters down, they will still find it. Let's try and bury it here. The boars will find it anyway. Look at this huge stump. Piece of cake for them to dig it out of the soil. Imagine their force. They're truly mighty. We say goodbye to Vasily Yakovlevich. It is time to get acquainted with the Sirdarya closer.
Еще вчера мы мерзли в снегах Каратау, а сегодня вот 19 градусов тепла.
Yesterday we were freezing in the Karatau snow and today it is 19 degrees above zero. Great weather here on the Sirdarya with no wind. Good for kayaking. Our vehicle will move along the river coast and I will kayak downstream several dozen kilometers by myself to get a look at the Sirdarya, so to speak, from the inside. It's going to be an amazing experience. This way you can really feel the river, touch it with your bare hands. It is also possible to encounter different animals, especially at dusk and at dawn. Spending a night on a desolate island, you can feel an extraordinary acoustic exposure, the song of the jungle, as they call it. There is no silence. Something is screaming, something is hunting, and something is running away in fear. The cries of the victims and the triumphing roars of predators. Although you don't see the animals, it is clear that the Tugay jungle is inhabited by dozens of different species, including bloodthirsty ones. A pack of jackals raising a howl close to the tent adds a good spice to the journey.
Когда рядом с палаткой вдруг неожиданно завоет стая шакалов, то это, конечно, добавляет романтики такому путешествию.
The Tugay woods can be up to 10 kilometers wide and consist mainly of different types of purple willow, poplar and silvery sakura jida. Occasionally, the river splits into sleeves, forming numerous islands, dams and channels. The spring flood fills the floodplain, inviting the fish. Wild cubs spawn in the shallow and well-heated ponds. The spawning usually begins when the water temperature reaches the romantic 15 degrees. The Sirdarya catfish are truly immense and impressive and won their real fame already in mid-19th century. Lieutenant General Alexander Heinz, a famous local expert, wrote, "A battalion of the Samara Regiment passed here recently. The soldiers went for a swim in the river and suddenly one corporal began to shout. He was close to the bank, so 2 privates tried to pull him out thinking he was drowning. But the corporal continued to scream and pulled the privates into the water. At last he begged them to let him go, explaining that a huge fish got his leg in its mouth up to his groin. Unfortunately, the soldiers failed to pull him out of the water. Several days later, not far from Kazakh, in the shallow water, they found a huge dead catfish weighing over 200 kilos that had choked on their corporal. The monster swallowed one corporal's leg up to his groin, but his body did not let the fish to swallow the corporal's body completely. The academician Lev Berg, in his book The Fish Species of Turkestan, wrote that near Kizilorda they caught catfish weighing a little less than 200 kilograms, and in the mouth of the Sirdarya near Kazalinsk, catfish weighing up to 128 kilograms were quite ordinary. In recent years, an uninvited guest from the Southeast Asia came to the Sirdarya, the snakehead, a survival champion. They can live in water, poor in oxygen, and even fall into anabiosis for several months. The water bodies in the Sirdarya floodplain serve home for many avian species like ducks, swans, pelicans, herons, and others. For Almaty region, red herons are a rarity, whereas for the Sirdarya, it is quite a usual bird. It is slightly smaller than the grey heron and has an interesting coloration. The family of bearded reedlings is really alarmed with something. What happened? It appears they got an unwanted company. The female is revolted with the impudence of the intruder and encourages the male to take control of the family plot and give the uninvited guest a good thrashing. How dares this impudent to court me? But I'm a faithful wife. It's offensive to me, so go on and teach him a good lesson of manners. The male is compelled to rush protecting its family values. In fact, in such conflicts, the owner of the plot almost always wins. Self-awareness gives it strength, whereas the stranger is usually not so sure of its status and flees. Another married couple joins our bearded reedlings. This time it's reed buntings. Our cameraman is preparing to film a fight scene, but the birds for some reason are peacefully feeding next to each other, as the instinct to protect the nesting site against competitors concerns only the same species. Reed buntings don't stir any emotions in reedlings, and the two species peacefully build their nests several meters away from each other. But here comes the enemy, equally dangerous for both reedlings and buntings, and it is time to seek shelter in the reeds. The muskrat has no time to waste quarreling with neighbors. It's very thrifty and has an important business to attend to, building a house and stocking up on reed roots for the winter. Pelicans are highly sociable birds. They nest in colonies and hunt for fish together. Scientists have noted that pelicans possess a well-developed feeling of social altruism. It is believed that they even bring up nestlings that were left without parents. This is the nest of Pandalline tit. It is a remarkable builder and made it out of reed whisks. This is the entrance, looking like a snail, and the nesting chamber is inside. Somebody lived here last year.
Пожалуй, я заболтался, мне сейчас еще нужно подумать о месте ночлега.
I have been talking too much and forgot about the fact that I need to organize my lodging for the night. So I will pedal a little more to find a good camping place. It is not that easy to find a suitable spot as I thought, due to, first of all, rather dense thickets along the riverbank, and second of all, the spring high water that covered many good spots. 10 kilometers above stream, there were some good sandy shores, but I wanted to cover more distance and came to the place where there is nothing like this. Hopefully I will be able to find another suitable site before it gets dark.
До темноты еще осталось часа полтора, я такое место найду.
This looks like a nice spot to set up the camp. The fact that it is close to a boar's path might cause concern, but we are running down on options. The plan is to cook dinner and then walk the island with a video camera. It is difficult to fall asleep in Tugay jungle for a first-comer, as the air fills with disturbing sounds. Owl hooting, jackals howling, and then suddenly something big and heavy walking through the reeds. This way or another, it is better to have some sleep, as tomorrow we will be rowing all day long. Next morning, our cameraman set out searching for something to eat. It turned out that to survive on a deserted island, one simply needs to carefully look down.
Ну вот на этом острове оказалось довольно много грибов.
This island is abundant with mushrooms. I found 3 blue stalks and 2 morels. It's not too much, but enough to make a breakfast. It took me 5-6 minutes to get enough for a full-fledged meal.
Для полноценного завтрака у меня ушло 5-6 минут.
Cooking a mushroom soup takes about 20 minutes. By 7 a.m., our cameramen are already on water.
Вообще берега Сырдарьи, на мой взгляд, очень похожи на тугайные леса нашей Или.
From the boat, the Sirdarya banks, in my personal opinion, look very similar to the Tugay woods of our Ili River. If we sent our drone 500 kilometers above Earth and got a several kilometers wide panorama, then the difference would be obvious. Whereas in southern Balkhash area, reed thickets stretch for tens and sometimes even hundreds of kilometers, then along the shores they have been doing irrigated agriculture for many centuries. Fields and pastures are all around us. Although the forest is similar, same jida, poplar and purple willow, same pheasants, boars and of course the Bukhara deer. It is not by accident that kayaking and rafting has become so popular. You cannot go on such a trip and not see something exciting.
Сейчас у нас на пути очень интересный объект. Это питомник бухарских оленей хангулов.
We are approaching a very interesting facility. I'm in the nursery of Bukhara deer or kanguls. We got the permission from the management of the Sirdarya Turkestan National Park to try to film them in the wild. Several of them were moved here in 2000. It was just 8 animals, and now their population is already 170 heads. 126 of them still live in the nursery, and about 50 animals had been already released into the wild and are slowly spreading in the Sirdarya Tugay woods. The location of the nursery is marked on the map, but it turned out not so simple to find it.
Когда мы выезжали, договорились с нашим водителем, что он нас встретит вот где-то в этом месте.
When we left, we agreed with our driver that he would meet us somewhere here. We have the approximate coordinates on our GPS, but the coast is flooded with spring-high water. I think I hear cow lowing. It means that the shepherd's wintering dwelling is not far. If we manage to come ashore somewhere nearby, it might be possible that our Uncle Victor is waiting for us there. Hi there, did you get any fish? Here come our travelers. Tired? Very much. All right, time for some tea and rest. Do you actually have some hot tea and fish soup? No, but I will cook some right away. Having met the main group, our cameramen do not want to waste a minute and move off to riparian forest in search of Kangals. The riparian forest generally consists of silver sucker and poplar. It is a real poplar grove. If you walk quietly enough, you have a chance of approaching a pheasant unnoticed. We are in the midst of mass migration of singing birds. Do you hear the song of the European shivshav? We see some deer traces on the edge of the glade. This is where the Kangals feed. A good place for an ambush. Although Kangals were bred by humans, nowadays they have become ordinary wild animals, and in order to catch them on camera, one needs a lot of patience. It is necessary to choose a place with headwind, as deer possess magnificent intuition and excellent hearing. Their sight is great too, but first off they register moving objects. If standing or sitting for a long time not moving, the Kangals might very well not notice you. The film crew has been lying in the grass for 2 hours, but the animals are nowhere to be seen. Our videographers were already thinking of leaving their observation post, but suddenly they saw the deer coming out of the forest shade. They will stand on the forest edge for some time, carefully examining the area, and if they don't notice anything suspicious, they will come out into the open. The slightest move by the film crew will make the deer flee immediately. The graceful animals finally come into the glade. The females are in the front of the herd, as in deer communities, skilled females often take the leading role. They manage the herd for 10.5 months of the year, but in the beginning of September, when the mating season begins, the peaceable nature of males unexpectedly changes. From careful and even phlegmatic animals, they turn into aggressive fighters and squabblers. Once, Kangals were widespread in the valleys of all inundated Central Asian rivers, but were extinguished by humans by the first half of the 20th century, almost everywhere across their habitat. Only about 150 of them survived in the Tiger Ravine in Tajikistan. In 1982, 18 animals had been brought to the Kapchagai Nature and Hunting Reserve, and in 25 years, their population grew to 400 heads. From the Kapchagai area, small parties of Kangals began to spread across their historical habitat. The project turned out a real success, and now there is hope that in the near future the Bukhara deer will become as widespread in Kazakhstan as before. The staff of the nature reserve are closely monitoring this resettlement mission. The Turkestan branch includes 3 forestries: Kizil Sharua, Baltakol and Shawel deer, with a total area of 23,822 hectares. This is the specially protected natural area. The Sirdarya River left and riverbanks are also under special protection. After the tiresome kayaking trip, it's great to get some rest in a comfortable setting, and thus the expedition is happy to make use of one of the camps on the territory of the national park. There are 7 of them for tourist convenience, fitted with temporary houses, generators and free access to the river bank. Sports fishing, kayaking and animal watching are among the prospective types of domestic and international tourism. On the one hand, they satisfy the people's need of communication with nature, and on the other hand, the associated profit allows to preserve natural ecosystems and areas. All members of the Outdoor KZ expedition are really glad to have visited this unique and exciting place. We hope you too.